So Wednesday night dash was depends on who you ask. So
I'm glad it was done.
well that one's done. Actually, that was one of my better performances of the year, which that bar is really low, but we'll talk more about that in a bit. We'll talk also about Sonoma and Le Mans. This is iRacing's Garage Talk. I'm DJ Flook.
I'm Eric Richardson.
And if you saw my post earlier today, I put an old style beer logo as a reminder that if I finish this race, and I finished the race, I'm gonna crack open an old style. Gotta get for the branding promotional.
Drink of Champions.
That's right. So this has been sitting in my refrigerator for about a month because I was sick like half the month of May and couldn't drink anything. So
That's right.
yeah, so this is
Overdue.
yeah, it says Best by July 2023. I mean, that could be like the year 2300 too with this beer.
It's old style, never goes out. It tastes the same if it's older than you.
It tastes the same. I mean, yeah, old style beer.
Don't want to tell you how many 30 packs I probably picked up over the years.
Recently, or are you just saying in general?
In general.
Oh, yeah, they only do the 12 packs out here, but still, that's, I don't drink nearly as much, or I don't have the capability of drinking nearly as much as I used to in my younger days. So, nor would I want to try. My brother, on the other hand, I don't know how he does it. Like, I think his liver's going to fail on him by his mid 40s, but
let's hope not.
He was at my house a few years ago, and I got him a 30 pack of Coors Light. And he was the only one drinking it because I didn't have any. And I'm just like, whatever, I got my own stuff. And I turn around on my pool deck and I start counting the cans. We had been outside maybe 3 hours. I counted 18 cans on the pool deck.
That's about right.
I'm like, how do you drink 18 cans of beer in like 3.5 hours in the pool? I mean, yeah, it's like 110 outside. It's a lot easier when you have an ice cold beer that's as cold as the Rockies.
It's also water.
Yeah. And then he's like, I only had 6. I'm like, dude, are you that drunk that you can't count all those cans? Because I didn't drink any of that. Your wife didn't drink any of that. My wife didn't drink any of that. That is all you, buddy. But
I'm kind of opposite end of the spectrum. I went for the City Gate
whiskey. Is that a Darlington Cup?
No, just Florida.
Florida. I caught the corner of that. I was like, is that a Darlington Cup? That's cool.
It's out of a distillery in St. Augustine, Florida.
There you go.
I had to bring it back the last time I drove down there.
We sample all the fine cuisine. So let's get right into Wednesday night dash this week. We put I've heard Rudskogen. I've heard Rudskogen. I don't know.
I have no clue.
I've been calling it Rudskogen. And I mean, that's what I'm going to call it. And it might not be right. And someone listening to it's like, man, you're an idiot. But I'm like, I don't live in Norway. I don't speak the language. I'm probably getting it wrong. But we put it on there because it looks fun. It's challenging. It's a smaller course. Side note, they're actually renovating it. And they are going to add I want to say another 1.5 kilometers to the course. And they want to get the FIA grade 1 status and try to attract Formula 1 for a Norwegian Grand Prix.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean I guess that's probably the reason for doing that. I'm sure there's other events that you could do when you have essentially a 3.5 mile track, I think or a 3.5 mile track. But you can't argue with the landscape. I mean, it's a very scenic course. It was our first event at a track outside of the U.S. I mean, when you're running NASCAR, outside of Canada, there's some road courses you could try, or you could always try the ancient oval of Monza if you're psychotic enough. Well, I don't know. What'd you think?
That. Yeah, I'm glad it's over. I put in 0 practice time. I went to start learning it, was not having it. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to get ready for Daytona.
Fair enough. So when you're practicing tracks, this is a kind of a controversial method, but some people swear by this, some people swear against it. On a road course, I won't do this on ovals, but on a road course where it's, there's some technical pieces, I will turn the racing line on and I'll run an hour on the racing line. Not necessarily that I'm going to follow the racing line, because everyone familiar with iRacing knows it's not always the best choice. But at least while you're getting yourself familiar with it, running an hour with the race line on, and then I come back the next day and I did 3 days running it off, and it made a huge difference for me running it with it on and using it as a guideline, not as something that you follow strictly, but as a rough guideline to understand the course. And I had a hot, came in a little hot coming down the hill, and I had to take a tow and a couple other dumb mistakes that I made. But I mean, otherwise, I didn't have that bad of a night. I felt pretty decent. I mean, I was 5 seconds off the pace, on my best lap, but considering how my rest of my season has gone, 5 seconds off the pace with a couple little oops moments, I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm taking a run. I was messing around, and by the end of the race, I needed the last 2, so I put myself at a 21x.
So there's a couple of there's a couple of things here. Lap 1, I could see you were having some issues with some of those technical turns in the middle of the course, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to make a run. I get by you, and then I come around the corner and I eat it, and I was just like, no. And then you had to clip me as you go by, and I'm just like, no. I'm like, that was my first, would have been my first clean in race pass of the season, I think, which is sad on many levels. But I was just like, oh, so close. But yeah,
I just didn't put in any time on this track. Right now I'm shifting gears to ARCA.
No pun intended. I mean, here's the other thing too, is I had to go and recalculate all the scores because there's a bug. I don't know. They took, iRacing released, we've talked about it last week, a new Porsche GT3 car. If you go into the official races for the GT3, it's classed in there already. The old one has been retired. It's legacy. It's out of there. But it went into the hosted race earlier today to do my spot check to make sure I didn't screw this thing up. And it wasn't in there. And I couldn't add it. It wouldn't let me add it into the GT3 class. It wouldn't let me put the legacy one back in there. But we also said, well, it's out of there. And so I ended up having to add a second class of cars. And Hunter and I were the only ones who ran the Porsche. I love that Porsche. It drives so much nicer. It's a lot easier to control than the other Porsche. It is now my favorite. Not even close. It is my favorite of the GT3 cars I have tried so far. But anyway, so if you watch the race, Hunter and I were in our own class on our own, running 1-2, and everybody else was in the main GT3 class.
Yeah, and once I started looking at it, that's what I figured out was going on there.
Yeah, and I'm just like, shoot. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm not, and breaking news, you might have heard it on the stream. I'm not going to be around next week, so I'm not going to be racing in the finale. A little disappointed, but it's just my schedule and everything going on. I had to schedule some things that I'm not going to be available to race next week. So, which is a bummer because we're going to do the 8 times real-time clock in Daytona, which means that the real-time clock counts 8 times faster. And in a 45-minute race, you're going to start in the afternoon. You're going to be racing overnight, and then you get into the early morning hours when you finish. So you have the challenge of having to adjust for the different parts of the day. If only we could have added rain.
Now, the way the season's gone, why not?
There was I forget who it was. One of the iRacing employees tweeted out a photo or a video of I think it was from Le Mans where it started raining a little bit at night. You just see one of the cars just completely eat it, and it says, "Are you sure, iRacing drivers, that you want it rain?"
Oh, it'll be a fun one to mess around with at some point.
As the people of Reddit have, in less kind words, have said, you can't even drive when it's dry pavement. How the hell do you think you're going to drive when it's wet?
Pretty much.
True story. So going into the last week, Mark's lead has been shrinking. Ian Miller won his second race of the season tonight.
Yeah, he had a great run tonight.
He's been really good. He had a kind of a bad moment where he crashed early in the season. Otherwise, I think he would have probably overtaken Mark for the series lead by now. Mark has a 4-point lead going into the final race. Hunter is 10 points behind Ian, which puts him 14 points behind Mark. Unless Mark and Ian absolutely eat it, Hunter's probably not going to be able to catch both of them. But, I mean, you never know. All three, well, I don't know about Ian. I've not seen Ian race on Daytona, but I know for a fact Mark and Hunter probably would say this is their strongest track. And we've seen Hunter race before, the 24-hour back in January. They both know what they're doing out there. Hunter's going to be in the new Porsche, so it's going to be a little bit different for him, but I'm sure he'll adjust. And I think you're going to see a really strong battle between the three of them.
This has the potential to really be a good finale. So you actually have 5 drivers that could really make a mess of this championship. Because don't forget, Tyler's a Daytona 24 team champion.
Yes, Tyler has won at Daytona. He's been having problems with the fixed configs. And I think, if we were to do this next time around, I don't know about fixed config, but yeah, well, problem with opening is like, if somebody goes to Maconi, or if you go to one of the others and buy spend $4, is it going to be that much of a difference in this league? And it's probably not. One of the top tier drivers in the league, do you think that they get enough of advantage that would push them ahead of another one? I don't know.
They still got to do lap after lap, and I don't think it'd be too much.
Majors Garage, our partner. I can't believe I forgot them.
Yeah, I use Majors for the setups on the road courses, especially on GT3 cars. But coming out of Daytona is probably my best track of the season too.
Yeah, I mean you got plenty of practice on that track.
Yeah, quite a few of us are Daytona 24 runners now.
Are you going to go to the Porsche, or are you going to stick with the Ferrari?
I'll probably be sticking with Ferrari. And I've actually been doing best lap times on baseline setups compared to what I was doing when we had setups. So I can tell I've definitely improved on the track.
So how does it work? I have not driven in a team event. How does it work when you have an open setup? Does somebody have to go in and load it, or do all three of you have to have the same config? How does that work exactly?
From what I've been able to tell, one person loads it up, and then that's what carries over for everybody else.
And then you just make your fine-tuning adjustments as you see fit as it goes?
Yeah, using your in-car adjustments. Then the other piece that comes into it is just getting practice on it.
Right.
If one person or two people have it, but your other teammates don't, they're jumping into a brand new car that they don't know the handling and characteristics on.
I kind of see it as like when you own a personal vehicle and you share the vehicle with, like your wife or whatever. And this happens every time I drive my wife's car, and I get in, I sit down in the seat. I'm like 3 inches from the steering wheel. Can we back it up, please? I feel like you got to go in and you got to adjust it. And yeah, there's different settings that you have to go in. I'm sure someone, you have different brake bias settings that you prefer versus, what Mark or what Hunter, uh, preferred. So did you run into that at Daytona where you had to go in and make an adjustment on the fly like that?
Um, no, I was still just more or less getting in and running. And I can tell I've learned a lot over the past 5 months. Now, if we could go out and do it now, I think I'd be much better, at least more confident on track and running in traffic.
It's one of those same thing too. I would say I'm probably like maybe a little bit behind where you were in January. I just haven't had the practice. I see you're typing in Discord right now because I looked at the alert too.
Yeah, we are looking to see there's a potential that we're going to be running the 6 hours of Watkins Glen here in not too long from now. But we'll see if we get the drivers or not.
Oh man. I guess we do have we will have a new driver next week at Daytona.
That is right.
So I say you forgot. I could tell by your reaction to that.
Yeah, got a buddy coming in.
Yep. So actually, this is one of Mark's friends. Yeah, Mike will be joining us in racing next week. Mike was actually the one who introduced iRacing to Mark. He actually lives out this way as well, so this three of us will have to go have some brewskis someday at some point, which still haven't done that, and I don't know why, but we've got the ARCA season coming up at the end of July, and I'm gonna have to be around my laptop so I can quickly calculate the results and hope the results come up quickly, because iRacing on occasion has been known to delay publishing the scoring. Knock on wood, that hasn't happened lately, but I need to at least be around my laptop at the end and go in there, make the adjustment. I'll have to fix the class thing. I'll take care of that tomorrow. But we got to add the bonus point, and we'll see what happens. I'm gonna have to type out scenario. I'm like figures. The week I'm not there, I have to type out like a bunch of clinching scenarios of like if Ian wins the race and leads the most laps and takes the pole position bonus point. The worst Mark can do is, I think, second. And that's assuming he doesn't get any of the bonus points. So if
something come down to the last race.
Yeah. We're gonna have to put a bunch of scenarios in it, like, okay, so Mark clinches the championship if Hunter clinches which that's gonna be a pretty, basically he has to win, grab the pole, get the most laps led, and I think Mark and Ian have to like finish dead last, like the last two positions for Hunter to overcome the deficit there. And I'm not sure that will even be enough, but we'll figure that out. Real quick, we said we're moving back to the ARCA cars next month in July. New damage model.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how this works, because you tap somebody and you're getting meatballed.
Yeah, bump drafting does not work. One, still doesn't work. Two, if you go head on, you catch somebody square from behind and you hit them, you're gonna need a tow. That's a meatball, and you probably burst your radiator.
Hopefully they scale it back just a touch. What we've seen so far, you're getting meatballed for a 5 mile an hour, or what was it, 10 mile an hour bump against a wall.
They basically said you can't go more than like 30. If you go head on into the wall at a speed faster than 20 miles an hour, it's a meatball. Like you're gonna need to be towed back to the pits. Which before you could go into the wall probably at like 150 miles an hour and maybe survive it.
Well, and you got to watch the wall here. These cars kind of act like magnets.
Yeah.
With the arrow on them.
Going in on the side and kind of sliding kind of sliding in the side, it doesn't seem to be the big deal. The big change is the head on. If you just plow into somebody from behind, or if you hit the wall head on, that's where you're screwed.
I think
So
they're trying to work on cleaning up the racing in the ARCA series, but
they need to, but I think they may have went a little
too
too far the other way. So I'm gonna bring
maybe,
it back.
maybe let it run through week 3, 4, or 5, and then start to bring it back if everything's cleaned up a little bit.
So I don't think the ARCA car was in the update today, the patch that they released.
No, I don't believe it was.
I sent this to you from the change log. That kind of is at the bottom. It cracked me up at Daytona. If you can't really see it from the broadcast, but there's, if you've ever watched a Daytona race, there's an airport right behind the track and planes are taking off and landing. And in iRacing, going around the track, you'll see planes that are coming in for a landing. And apparently they botched something on the last release. And they said that the plane would come in for a landing at supersonic speeds.
Man, that'd be awesome to watch.
The thing is, we ran on Daytona the other night. I didn't notice it.
No, I didn't see that either.
I didn't notice it. So I don't know. Well, that bug's fixed now. So I think that was hilarious. But so moving on to real racing, if we're gonna shut this down, we got like 10 minutes, and then we gotta see if we can hit our goal here.
We're on time limit here tonight.
Yeah, we got a time limit here today, so we're not gonna go and we originally said 15 minutes. We'll do 15 minutes, and the next thing you know, we're doing 50-minute shows, like 15.
We've gotten a little better here recently.
Yeah, we're getting a little more control there. Le Mans, what'd you think?
It was fun. I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. I didn't realize I could watch it until halfway through. We're scrolling through and I see MT and it says 24-hour Le Mans.
MT.
Wait a second. Why is it on TV?
Yeah, and then you texted me. You're like, yeah, he's like, I just realized
it's a race.
You're like, you texted me, you're like, yeah, I just realized it's on Hulu. I'm watching now. And you're like, it's on Hulu? I pull it up. I'm like, MT. Okay, that's what that channel is.
Because I didn't mess with trying to get it.
Yeah, I did the
over 10 months old. He decides that he can start standing up in his bassinet. We're like, oh boy, we can't do this.
Yeah,
we gotta keep him safe. So we start changing over everything. Like, man, that's why we're unable to go live.
Wait till you have the first flip over the crib. Oh, that's fun. We only had that happen one time. That was still don't know how that happened. But I did the Motor Trend Plus 7-day free trial with the full intention of canceling it before I got charged my $4.99. And then you're like, yeah, it's on Hulu. And I'm like, oh, it is. Cancel. So I don't forget. So the only thing Motor Trend Plus had is they had different cameras where you could go to the different cars and watch the in-car view, but they didn't have any like overlays or anything. It was just in the car. They had a couple timing and scoring channels as well, which were kind of cool. But if you're looking at the main coverage, I'm like, okay, we're going to watch the rest of this on Hulu. And frankly,
the coverage could have been a little bit better.
I thought the coverage
where like cars were actually running like in relation to each other. And I think they were going like the F1 style of where the cars were in relation to the next car.
Yeah. And
so it made it hard. Like, where is everybody?
My boss is a big racing. My boss in my day job, he's a big racing fan, and I have a meeting with him. And usually, every time I'm on the phone with him, we get sidetracked and have probably a 10-15 minute conversation on whatever. So we were talking Le Mans today, and he's like, I thought the coverage sucked, and I said, I'm in agreement. He goes, you have this American audience who has no interest in Le Mans, or very little interest in Le Mans. They're tuning in because they want to see the Garage 56 entry. And
the amount of time I watched, I did not see the car except for maybe 2 seconds.
They largely ignored it until they started having cars dropping out of the race for various reasons. And then it was kind of like, oh, look, here's those Americans in their giant noisy car that can't turn right, but it can. And it was outrunning the GTE class. by like 10 seconds. And there's the footage of the Garage 56 just blowing past Ferraris.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I watched around the middle of the race at the 12-hour mark, and they were just showing basically the hypercars.
yeah, that's what it was. It was
The overall.
hypercar. It's like great if you're a
And
hypercar
then
fan.
I did get up and I watched the last hour. I mean, we did see something historic. Ferrari hasn't won in what, 50 plus years.
That's crazy. Like when Ford came in and took them in 66. Woo, when they came in and took them in 66. 65 was the last year that they won. I could not believe that. But you've had Porsche win like 14 times or something like that. Toyota's won a bunch.
Toyota's had what, the last five?
Yeah. And one of their cars hit a squirrel. Did you see that?
That, I mean,
Or they think they hit a squirrel.
yeah, Ferrari had a great race. Cadillac was what, 3 and 4?
Yeah, they had one of their cars, I think, crash out. Um, yeah, there was a lot of crashes. I think what 20 some cars had to drop out for various reasons, which I mean, I think that's probably about typical.
Yeah, and if you're watching, you wouldn't even know that you had basically the GT class running.
And
they were shown
yeah,
so
right. Yeah, that kind of blew my mind. They were just kind of, they showed the Porsche with the shark mouth car, which Hunter actually ran that paint tonight. Did you notice?
Yeah, that was great. I like that.
Yeah, that was really cool. But yeah, it's just not a lot of love for Garage 56. I mean, they were up there in the 20s until they had to stop in hour 22 for a gearbox change out. They finished 39th. But otherwise, they finished the race. I mean, it was a lot of goodwill for NASCAR. There was a lot of people on Reddit and Twitter in Europe that are like, okay, this is pretty cool. And you hear the stories of reporters saying, well, I didn't have a problem staying awake because every 4 minutes the Garage 56 car would roar by and shake the stands and wake everybody up again.
Yeah, they had a great showing for what the car was.
Yes, absolutely. I think this is going to do a lot for NASCAR, and they need to capitalize on this. They've got some interest. They got some respect where, oh, look at you, left turn oval driving Americans with your 250, 300-pound out of shape drivers eating hamburgers. Like, yeah. Okay, yeah, there's some truth. There used to be some truth to that. Not so much anymore. You don't really see
much more athletes, and they were just
Carl Edwards kind of changed that. Jeff Gordon, I don't think he had the workout regimen as Carl Edwards, but like those late 90s drivers that came in with Dale Jr. and Carl Edwards, he's early 2000s.
They changed a lot.
Yeah. It's like, they're in the weight room just as much as like a football player would be. But anyway, my favorite moment of the weekend, though, with the middle announcer crew for like the middle part that was covering the overnight hours, and they just couldn't grasp the concept of NASCAR. And they're like, oh, here comes my poor accent here, pardon me. Oh, the Garage 56 car has come in. And like unlike the other cars, they pull in and they do their driver change and they open the door and the driver gets out. But not the Garage 56. They climb in and out of the window like the Dukes of Hazzard.
Hey, take it.
I was like, yeah, okay. That's hilarious. It's insulting and it's a very dated reference. But okay, I see you. I get your point.
Hey, it's awesome. We'll take it.
But and then then the pit crew and they have the manual jack that they were using for tire changes and
they still win the pit stop.
And they still win the pit stop competition. It's like the Ford v Ferrari. And they show Carroll Shelby. Why are they pitting so much faster? Got a damn NASCAR crew. No shit. They got a NASCAR crew.
Overall, good race. And speaking of NASCAR, Sonoma. Martin Truex got a second one of the year.
Real quick, Anthony Alfredo, holy crap. Did you see his crash from was it qualifying or practice? It was
practice.
his
I did see that. I was
throt
watching when it happened.
man, that was scary. Throttle got stuck into one of the big corner, and he managed to turn the wheel and got off. I mean, he trashed the car, but he got out of
Yeah,
there
tore off that whole right side.
and he killed a lizard.
Yep.
He's like,
it out of
he pulled it out. He pulled a dead lizard out of the wrecked car. He's like, poor
and
guy.
you don't want to see throttle stick.
No.
Luckily he walked away.
Yeah. And then they had a mechanic, they had their backup car, which was from Portland the week before, and then they had a mechanic. It was just a bad weekend for him. But man, glad he's okay. He's a great follow on social media. We've interacted with him numerous times. Great guy. Met him in Phoenix earlier this year. Great ambassador for the sport. And just glad he's okay. Glad everything.
Yeah,
that was scary, and just hope he it doesn't impact his on track performance in the future. But that's what these guys do for a living. And girls,
they're used to it.
But, yep, Martin Truex got another win. He's looked really good this year.
At least they raced through the stage breaks now.
Yes, that was a major improvement.
But
yeah, Truex and Blaney, the two with the high points but no wins last year, have wins this year. So it's good for them.
I sent it to you. NASCAR is making a big deal about how this is like the closest the top 7 have been ever. Reading the comments though, it's hilarious. Your like point scoring
doesn't really matter in the end.
It's completely different.
Yes, and it doesn't matter in the end.
You are in now defeating your need for the playoffs. I will still hold to that. I hate the playoffs.
And the thing too is like every time and sports and policies and everything, you have one obscurity that happens and then you just massively overreact to it. The playoffs were a massive overreaction to Matt Kenseth clinching in what was it, September in 2003.
It was so early.
Like he clinched the series in August or something really obscure. I don't think it was even Labor Day, and he's lifting the trophy up, and it's just like,
hey, he had a great season. He was consistent and scored a lot of points.
And the thing is, I don't think he had that many wins. I think he just had a lot of top 5s.
Consistency wins championships.
You know what they say, you can't win if you don't finish. Let's see here. This weekend coming up, NASCAR's off. Gonna shift to NBC following weekend for Nashville.
Yep.
And then the Chicago Street Race coming up.
Jeez, I'm gonna watch.
I'm gonna love it. It's gonna be great for TV. I'm gonna guarantee the drivers are gonna hate it.
All right, so I'm gonna toss this out to you. It's July 4th weekend. Do we watch the race and do GT live?
Yes.
And make it a drinking game.
Yes.
Every caution
and
I'll get some old style.
We gotta do the old style for the Chicago race. Chicago's beer, even though it's brewed in theory in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Right, so how about this? We'll figure this out here. Red flags, shot of Malort.
You want me to be hammered, don't you?
Every caution or something, we're cracking or finishing an old style. You see where I think this race is going.
The end of the stream is going to be like this will be me at the end of the stream. Apologies if you're listening on the in the podcast for that lovely noise. But
we've driven that track. It is crazy. The NASCAR drivers even did a race on this track, and they were crashing all over. They were
struggling in that next gen car. But it's two things for me: is we've done the race in iRacing. I've driven those streets in real life numerous times, and I really think this is going to be a one and done.
I hope so.
I think they're either going to be at Chicagoland back at Joliet, or they're going to be back up at Road America next year. They have a 3-year deal signed for this race. I'm sure there's an opt-out clause if it's a disaster. I mean, it's just something's going to go wrong. Either this track's going to fall, it's going to be an awful race. Something's going to break. Something, they're going to damage the track and screw something up. There's going to be an incident. The logistics of closing the major artery of Chicago on the 4th of July weekend. Something has to go wrong here. You have to assume.
From my understanding, too, it was the former mayor of Chicago pushed this through, and
she did. Yes, she
did it without any input from the city council.
Anything, yeah.
It was just nothing like, hey, this is going to happen.
But like Chicago also has a history of doing that. The mayor, like you look at the past several mayors in Chicago, and it's like you had two, Richard J. Daley, Richard M. Daley, his father, Richard J. Daley. Some people thought he was actually a mob boss who was like mayor for like 20 something years. Then there's a couple people in between. Then his son's mayor for like 20 something years. Then you have Rahm Emanuel, who comes in there, and I actually met him at O'Hare once. I rode the tram in with him when he was actually Barack Obama's chief of staff.
Oh, wow.
That was very weird. I was on the tram into the airport at like 6 a.m. and the door opens and Rahm Emanuel comes walking in, and then just like,
I know you.
You're the guy who stands next to the president. Like, I didn't know what his name was. Like, he was a congressman in Illinois before he was the chief of staff and then mayor of Chicago. And I'm just like, you're the guy who stands next to the president of the United States. Why are you on the O'Hare parking lot commuter train at 6 a.m.? Yeah, it was one of my weirder encounters with somebody. I did one time run into our senator at the time in the bag claim at O'Hare. And I walked up to him and I said, "Afternoon, Senator." Just because, so I could say, "Afternoon, Senator." But anyway, we went over our time. We blew past it by about 7 minutes or so, but it's close.
We're doing better.
Number one, got my my ticket renewal for Phoenix Raceway for the spring. Got to do that. 2 more weeks. frracingonline.com/contest. Win this. Get this off my desk. We've got quite a few entries in there. I put it on my personal Facebook account to get people I know to like sign up for it. So sign up. Win an autograph. The guy won the Daytona 500 this year. We're giving it to you. We're giving it to somebody. You be that person. Go sign up.
And if you are in iRacing, oh man, I had too much whiskey there. If you're in iRacing, sign up for our charity race coming up in September. Yes. Entries are open. It's just $20 donation
minimum. If you want to donate more, we'll absolutely take more.
Goes to a great cause.
All of it goes to the cause. All your registration.
Suicide has affected both of us with people that we know, and we want to help put a stop to that. So any little part that we can do to help, come join us. Yes. And I won't be here next week. So I think you said you're working on booking a guest host to take my spot. Yeah. We'll still be running the show, and it's probably going to be a hot mess. So we're going to say, I was about to say, don't do a better job than me. I mean, that's a very, very low bar to hit, but don't do a better job than me. Yeah, we'll see what happens. If anything, I'm sure I'll make a thing go viral because it's that bad. That's okay. All right. And if it is, that just means I need to come back the following week. Yep. At FR Racing Online, frracingonline.com. You know where to find us. We say it every week. Thanks again for listening and watching us. See you next time. We'll see you soon.